Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, family, whatever the side of the diaspora that you're on. I want to welcome you to the Mental House with your host, Khadijah. I really hate to, uh, this article really got me going because I want um, you guys to really hear um, the behavior of this Oklahoma ex-cop who is guilty of 18 counts of sexual assault, sex assault. Um, he was literally pulling people over uh, and raping them. Now, there were 13 women who had accused him, and but let me just read the story to you, and you guys make your own assessment because this is why, as African people, the enemy is all around us, not only from our own neighborhoods, not only from ourselves, but this is what we got to deal with as women, as black people, from people we pay taxes to, our law enforcement officers. Okay? Not only do they want to shoot us down at will, this is some other bullshit they want to perpetuate against us. A former Oklahoma City police officer was convicted Thursday of raping and sexually victimizing 8 women on his local beat in a minority low-income neighborhood. Daniel Holtzclaw, who turned 29 Thursday, sobbed as the verdict was read out loud. Jurors convicted him of 18 counts involving 8 of the 13 women who had accused him. The jury acquitted him on another 18 counts. He could spend the rest of his life in prison based on the jury's recommendation that he serve a total of 263 years in prison, including a 30-year sentence on each of the first-degree rape counts. He was also convicted of forcible oral sodomy, sexual battery, procuring lewd exhibition, and second-degree rape. The jury deliberated for about 45 hours over 4 days. A jury will decide whether later he will serve the sentences consecutively. I want y'all to keep an eye on this because I'm getting just pissed off just reading the damn story. Holtzclaw's father, who is also a police officer in Enid, about 100 miles northwest of Oklahoma City, his mother and his sister were in the courtroom as the verdict was read. At least one accuser was present, as well as several black community leaders. Several armed deputies were stationed around the room. Holtzclaw's defense attorney, Scott Adams, declined to comment after the verdict was read. Justice was done today, and a criminal wearing a uniform is now going to prison, Oklahoma District Attorney David Prater said. Those counts were where the not verdict came back. They determined that we didn't prove those cases beyond a reasonable doubt. It doesn't mean that they didn't believe the victims. The lead detective in the case, Kim Davis, said after the verdict, "I feel horrible for his family. It's brutal, but I think justice was served." I don't really give a fuck about y'all that produced this freaking savage. The allegations against Holtzclaw brought new allegations to a problem of sexual misconduct committed by law enforcement officers, something police chiefs have studied for years. During a month-long trial, jurors heard from 13 women who said Holtzclaw sexually victimized them. Most of them said Holtzclaw stopped them while out on patrol, searched them for outstanding warrants, or checked to see if they were carrying drug paraphernalia, and then forced himself on them. Holtzclaw's attorney described him as a model police officer whose attempts to help drug addicts and prostitutes was why he came in contact with them, and it was distorted. Among the 8 women Holdsclaw was convicted of attacking was a grandmother in her 50s who launched the police investigation. She said she was driving home after 2 a.m. when Holdsclaw pulled her over. He first asked her if she had been drinking, then ordered her out of the car and into the back seat of his squad car. He then stood over her and ordered her to perform oral sex. She was the first victim to testify. The last was a teenager who was 16 when Holdsclaw attacked her. 17, I'm sorry. Holdsclaw was convicted of 3 charges related to her case: first-degree rape, second-degree rape, and sexual battery. Okay, it should have been a sexual rape of a child. I gotta see the laws in that state. The teenager recalled Holdsclaw pulling up in his police car as she walked home one night in June 2014. Holdsclaw drove her home and walked her to the door where he told her he had to search her. She said he grabbed her breasts, then pulled down her shorts before forcing them off and raping her. Despite the number of victims, the case presented prosecutors with several challenges. Why, I don't know. Many of the women had arrest records and histories of drug abuse. Holdsclaw attorney made those issues a cornerstone of his defense strategy. Adams questioned several women at length about whether they were high when they allegedly encountered Holdsclaw. He also pointed out that he did not come forward until police identified them as possible victims after launching their investigation. Ultimately, that approach did not sway the jury to dismiss all of the women's stories. Holdsclaw was convicted of one of 2 charges related to a woman who testified that he gave her a ride home, then followed her to her bedroom, and then forced himself on her and raped her, telling her, "Well, this is better than the county jail, let me tell you that." All of the accusers were black. Holdsclaw is half white and half Japanese. The jury appeared to all be white, though Oklahoma court officials said they did not have a race information for their jurors. Some supporters of the women questioned whether the jury would fairly judge the allegations. A former college football star, Holdsclaw joined the law enforcement after a brief attempt at pursuing an NFL career. Oklahoma City Police Chief Bill City fired Holdsclaw before the trial began. Holdsclaw's case was among those examined in an Associated Press investigation of sexual misconduct by law enforcement. The AP's year-long probe revealed that 1,000 officers had lost their licenses for sex crimes and/or other sexual misconduct over a 6-year period. Holdsclaw was not included in that count because he has not yet lost his license. The AP's finding is undoubtedly the undercount of the problem of sexual abuse in law enforcement. Not every state has a process for banning police officers from re-entering law enforcement, known as decertification. And those states that do, great variations exist in whether officers are prosecuted or with their state licensing board. This happened in the city that I live in. The only thing is, the person wasn't on such a rampage that he was raping everybody, like this particular officer Adams was. This story bothers me on so many levels, and all I can say is, people, we have to stay vigilant. You have to stay mindful that the enemy is all around. You have to stay prayed up and ask God for protection, and then realize that God has got no feet and arms but yours. Okay? Thanks for listening. Y'all have a great day. Bye-bye.